Hey guys, Negative9 here, how is it going everybody? And this week, Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire was announced, and one of its major headlining features was the introduction of mounts into Guild Wars 2. While this is a standard feature for most MMOs that you're probably familiar with, this is actually something pretty big for Guild Wars 2, because some of you may not know this, but throughout both games, the entire franchise of Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, there have never been mounts in the game. The closest thing we've had was gliding in Heart of Thorns. So a lot of people who played the original Guild Wars may be skeptical and less open to mounts, and while I do understand these feelings, that maybe the devs are pushing Guild Wars 2 away from its roots and making it less Guild Wars-y, I do think there's a difference between that and modernizing. Like I said, that you'd be surprised how many people just don't play Guild Wars 2 for this sole reason of no mounts. I think it is a good marketing decision. I think it's a good gameplay decision, although things will have to change to implement it properly, but I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, I think it is a good decision, especially if they're trying to make money off of the gem store as well. I don't think there's any problem with selling cosmetic skins for your mounts or anything, so that's definitely another way they can start to bring in more revenue, and revenue is good because revenue means more cool features like mounts in future expansions, so I'm a big supporter of that. The argument that I do sort of understand, however, regarding mounts is that Guild Wars 2 has been focused around fast travel for its entire existence, the ability to waypoint pretty much anywhere in the world instantly without any real cost. I mean, I know they cost money, tiny bits of copper, but I don't think I've ever, besides when I first started playing, had so little money that I couldn't waypoint somewhere. So yeah, waypoints are a little bit weird for me. I don't really love them. I think for an MMORPG, waypoints really break immersion. You want your characters to feel immersed in the world. When I played Elder Scrolls Online, that was a big difference that I noticed between Elder Scrolls Online and Guild Wars 2 was, in Elder Scrolls Online, I really felt like I was in the world and I was immersed and the scale of everything was correct and I was in Tamriel. And in Guild Wars 2, sometimes I'm so far zoomed out and yeah, I don't know, it's just not as immersive as some other games. To solve this problem though, they're gonna have to add less waypoints to maps, and we did see a little bit of this, so I think this is what they're going to do. We did see a little bit of this in Siren's Landing. There was only one real waypoint, but you could pay with the map currency of pearls, I believe, to unlock further waypoints, even with those there were only 3 or 4 other ones. So I think if they do that where you have to pay to unlock waypoints just for convenience, or if they just get rid of them completely, I'd be completely fine with both of those. I think even if you do have waypoints though, I think mounts is still something that you can add to the game because people like riding around on mounts and it's just a further way to customize your character at the end of the day. So the final problem that I see with mounts, but I hope this will be addressed correctly in this expansion and future expansions, is the size of everything. When you add mounts that drastically increase your movement speed, all of a sudden every single map you have in that game feels probably 10 times smaller than it actually is when you're running around it. So that could be a big problem with the previous maps, but I think people will be understanding of that. I think people who buy Path of Fire and then go back to the older zones once they have mounts, because they have confirmed that they will be usable in Corteria, much like gliding. I believe that the old maps are going to feel a lot smaller and a lot more boxy than really they should feel in an MMO. But I have heard from that shaman. I was reading his Twitter the other day, or I think it was today actually, and he said a lot of people have been complaining about the size of maps, specifically in Heart of Thorns. People said the size of the maps really wasn't as big as they'd like it to be. And that shaman, if you're not familiar with Guild Wars 2 community, he is a very well-known data miner who sort of sees all the things that are going to be added in the game before anyone else. But he gives us little sneak peeks every once in a while. So he said that every single one of the maps, or the smallest even of the Path of Fire maps, is bigger than the biggest map we have in the game, period. So that is very encouraging to hear. I think from now on we'll be getting a lot bigger sized maps, which is something that I've wanted personally for a long time. As far as I've seen in the trailers and of VODs from people who have been able to play the expansion, the mounts look really good. The movement looks great. They do look like they've put a lot of time into crafting these things into some really nice, they look like they feel nice. I haven't even been able to play it, but they look like they handle really well. Specifically the Jackal looked really impressive, and I think it's a good opportunity to add some just really cool features into the game. The fact that each mount has their own little abilities, like the Jackal can teleport and blink forward, all of that is just even better than how mounts are in other games. So I think Guild Wars 2 are going to do mounts well. I think so far from what I've seen, they've made them more impressive than even other games. In other games, you just sort of sit on it and run around for a little bit. But Guild Wars 2 is actually implementing it and making it part of the world and part of your character, which I really like. One thing that I did hear from one of the devs during their trailer, or sort of Path of Fire introduction, was that they want people to enjoy the movement in Guild Wars 2. They said the joy of movement, and I really like that phrase, and I think that's something that between gliding and mounts, Guild Wars 2 will really have in the next expansion. The only problem going forward is there's not really much more you can add. What else is there? You can't really add any more vehicles or anything like that. So I think it's just how they expand upon gliding and mounts and all these systems that they have already added into the game. And that's why I'm really happy that a lot of the things that were in Heart of Thorns were implemented, and a lot of the things that are going to be implemented in Path of Fire are implemented, because I think they're good for the game going forward. They give it a lot of depth. That's a word that I use a lot when talking about Guild Wars 2, but when you come into a game that's 5 years old, it's what you'd expect. You'd expect a lot of features, a lot of polished ideas, and I think we're in a good place right now. I'm really looking forward to playing mounts. Be sure to check out the sort of demo weekend that will be on the 11th, I believe. I'm going to try to record as much as I can during that weekend. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get done because I will have company, but I'll at least try to jump in, run around on a raptor for a little bit, and maybe test out the Firebrand if I can. Thank you guys for watching. Give me your thoughts on mounts, yes or no, good or bad. I will see you guys next time.